Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. It's the first touch, strong connection. It lays deep in your soul. Feel the kindness strongly coming.
Hi, this is Nancy Yeareld, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I have a lovely lady here today. Benig Mauger is here from Spain, and she's joining us via Zoom. So welcome to High Road to Humanity today, Benig.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you. I'm delighted.
Well, she has a new book out. It's called The Soul and the Sea, and it's really interesting. And you guys, let me kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. So she actually lives in Ireland. She just happens to be so fortunate to be visiting Spain right now, but she's an internationally known young psychotherapist. She's an inspirational teacher. She's a workshop leader. She's the author of many critically acclaimed books. So she's also a frequent speaker at national and international events on psychological healing, spiritual wellness, and how to live an empowered and soulful life. And we all want to do that. But you know, this was really interesting because I love the water too. I was telling you I love the trees. It's either the trees or the water. But you tell us your story. You found the sea was really healing for you.
Yes, well, my story goes back a long way, you know, to when I was born, which is many decades ago. But I was born in the west of Ireland of French parents, so that's hence my name. I'm Irish, but I'm also French. And we lived on the edge of the ocean all the time. And I only went to the UK sort of in my late 20s and worked there as a therapist and set up a birth center and became involved in childbirth preparation, and then trained as a therapist and wrote the first few books. Then I came home to Ireland in 1995, and I was living in Dublin then, but I still would come down to my soul home, as I call it, here, where you know, where I wrote the book, really. And which is where I live now, and it's right on the ocean. I think the sea is, and nature, but particularly the sea and the whole of the area around the coast of that part of Ireland really was very important in for my soul. You know, I feel my parents were refugees, so you know, it wasn't an easy time when I was born. Very, very premature birth, but also Ireland at that time, particularly that part of Ireland, it was incredibly remote and very poor. And so I think I gained nurturing from the earth. You know, I was always outside, and the earth really and the sea really I found nurturing.
Yeah, Right. I will mention I have spent time in Ireland myself, and it is beautiful and it is magical. It is so green. I just will tell the audience, for those who have not gone, it is as beautiful as you would think it is. I can remember my first, and I actually had really a lot of weird dreams there, because it feels like the soil, the land is so old, so ancient. It has so much wisdom. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in fact, in the book, one of the chapters, I do write about the fact that I'm living on the edge of what's called a killeen, which is the Irish word for a sort of graveyard for children. Because in the Catholic Church, it used to be that you could not be, you had to be baptized. If you were not baptized, you couldn't be buried in consecrated ground, if you see what I mean. So, I mean, if you read up about that, it's fascinating. But I think the ground and the earth has a lot of memory and holds a lot of that loss. I do feel that.
Well, I felt that when I went there, and I actually, yeah, I actually had a dream. I had two dreams when I was there, and I had never had this before, where I was frozen. And I
Wow.
think it's because I was so intuitive and I had no idea how old. I didn't appreciate the earth. Didn't like what had come before me, I guess I want to say. You
Yeah.
know, you don't know what was there, but whatever energy is there usually stays. And it's really interesting you talk about the children. You know, we forget that those things happened, that children were, yeah, if you weren't baptized, and that's true, that's how it was. And isn't that awful? That
And it
that
wasn't just, sorry to interrupt, it wasn't just
no,
children, it was actually for
anybody.
criminals, or yeah, anybody who was not considered kosher and not baptized in the Catholic, anybody who had committed suicide even. I mean, we will, the whole, this session is not about that, but it's a
Right.
kind of, it's a kind of mark on the land. And I do feel like you, actually, the night before this isn't in the book, but the night before we bought the house, the land where the house is built, I had a dream about a child that was buried, and a ghost, I suppose, or a spirit. Anyway, so I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, it's strange. It's really, it's something different than I've never experienced. Well, let's get back to talking about some of this stuff in the book, because it's very enlightening. And you say it's only in a state of complete abandonment and loneliness that we experience the helpful powers of our soul. Isn't that the truth? It's when things are really go crazy in our life that we're forced to look within.
Absolutely. And those were words from Jung, Carl Jung, and I'm trained in Jungian psychology, as you know.
Yes.
Those were his words. And I guess when I was writing the book, one of the chapters, The Red Room, I believe, is about the dark night of the soul. And, you know, I use a lot of, as you probably know, I use a lot of my own life and my own experience. That's my way of teaching.
Sure.
So I talk about the dark night of the soul and how, as you say, this forces us to go within and to encounter a wisdom that's there, because a lot of the time, and I'm sure you agree with this, you know, modern society and secular living has, in a way, pushed us to look outside of ourselves for everything, for love, for healing, for all of this, when in fact we're going the wrong way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, some of us aren't. That's why you're here. And that's why you wrote the book. And I'm really glad you did, because you talk about this. And, you know, I'll just tell you my own experience has been, and I teach the audience to meditate and to bring in the light and the vibration and the love of God. Because I think if I would have known when I was younger, of course, we all have to evolve in our own way, but I'd like to teach people that you're never alone. You always have that love of the divine source. You can say God, you can say creator, you can say whatever you want, but there is a higher power that fills us up and makes us, gives us that comfort. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think if the central message of this book, The Soul and the Sea, it's that we have within, we don't realize the power we have to heal and to connect with our inner healer. And so, although I'm a therapist and I have been for over 30 years, and I'm very, you know, depth psychology is my life and my practice, but I know that we have to combine this with spirituality, with a spiritual practice, in order to achieve healing. Because as I write in the book, you know, you can tell your story for years and years and keep saying the same thing to your therapist. Yeah. And you kind of know what happened. You kind of know, yeah. But are you healing? And then one day something happens. And I think what happens is you connect with your heart and you open to the divine. I feel that an opening has to happen first, because it's not at a cognitive level.
No, it's not. It's here. And you're absolutely right. That's why I'm so glad you wrote this. You know, you did write, and this is another thing, you know, and gosh, I see myself in this, and a lot of people that I talk to. I am an intuitive as well, and I hear this from a lot of people. But you wrote, we're all looking for another soul to love. Mm-hmm. And loving and relating is fundamental to our spiritual evolution. But what I see is what you wrote in this book too. It's learning to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, if you don't have that love and you don't know about the love of the divine, then you're looking outside of yourself. You're trying to find it. And you're looking at, you know how they say you're looking for love in all the wrong places.
I would,
about this. Yeah.
yes, I would have one caveat to that, in the sense that I'm an older lady now and have had, you know, marriages and children and grandchildren, but I believe that our soul brings us to meet certain people and have certain experiences in order to grow, to serve. I think our relationships are just in the service of the soul growth. So although we might look for it in the wrong place, there's something we need to learn there. And if indeed,
about ourselves.
And if indeed the relationship breaks down and it's a terrible heartbreak, you'll find that the heartbreak is actually a gift.
I know it is. I know. Yeah, but it takes us. I think that's why we have to go through, like you said, go through all this, because as you get older, you start to see all this stuff. Whereas when you're younger, you don't realize. But I think, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we taught our children these principles?
I agree with you. I wonder, is education changing? I don't know about the US, but there's a change. But deep down, children now are, you know, on the screen too much. So
way too much. Yes, I agree with that. And they're looking at all the material stuff to make them happy. And that's not what fulfills the soul. You know, I worry about all this AI stuff, to be honest with you.
Oh, I do too. I absolutely do. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's taking you away from yourself.
Right.
And no matter, and I don't know about you, but nowadays, if you ring up any sort of telephone company or electricity company to try and talk to someone about your problems with your bill or something, you can't speak to anyone. It's all automatic, and it's
maddening, isn't it?
Yes.
It is, because if you don't say the right keyword, then you don't get to the right person. And I'm one of those, I get so frustrated. I just sit there and hit the 0 until I get a person, because I'm like you. I don't want it. And you know what else, to be honest with you, since we're on the AI thing really quick, I hate texting. I'm old fashioned when it comes. I really think a phone call is so much more appropriate, or a written note instead of an email. People don't write notes anymore. And it's the energy of the words and the energy that it takes and the intention to write that or to make that call. You know what I mean? What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. And you know, in our day when we were young, we didn't have mobile phones and we didn't have texting. So now you hear of relationships being actually cut, you know, people texting and ending a relationship, then you're never actually embodying the experience or facing the person and facing the pain.
It's the chicken's way out. Yes. Oh my God, that's like, I don't know if you watch Sex and the City, but there's an episode where a guy breaks up with her on a Post-it note on one of these little things. He leaves her a little note, you know, it's not working out. That's what that reminds me of. Hey, let's talk about, we've got some really cool stuff to talk about today. And you talk about people who might feel stuck or blocked from their healing path. And I want to bring this up because I think we've all felt like this. We want to open up. You talk about transcendent dimension. I don't really explain to us what that is.
Yeah, now I don't know which part of have you set chapter, but if you don't, it doesn't matter.
No, I was just kind of reading off some of the notes that I was sent, but I guess when people are stuck or blocked, what do you recommend?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I think being stuck or blocked is a part of the process at times. What I recommend is, well, particularly if you're in therapy, then at least you can be there and wait for a dream which is very Jungian, but a dream And you're going to dream whether you're with a therapist or not. And what I encourage is that you write your dream. The dream will bring to the surface it's your soul speaking to you, and will give you some kind of message. So stay with the blockage and know that it will pass.
It takes time.
It takes time. It's a process. It's a hard thing to do, but stay with the blockage. And also knowing that you're not, you may think you're blocked, but that's your ego that says you're blocked. There may be a plan, and just surrender to the plan. And that's so hard to do, because the more we feel blocked, the more we try and get out of the block.
Right. We try to fix it ourselves.
We try and get out of it and fix it and get rid of it, in the same way that we want a definition of what's wrong with us. Oh, you've got this or you've got that. And then, oh yeah, I've got that, so I'm okay. But in a way, we need to just trust the process. Really just trust the process and stay with it and be with yourself and the pain of it, the feeling. I think it's very important to feel, to be with the feelings. When I was doing the work years ago with women in childbirth and all of that, and I was talking in my first book about how women suffer after a negative birth experience. But it doesn't matter whether you had a cesarean or a natural birth or what you had. The whole thing is, what you don't feel, you can't heal. You can't heal it if you don't feel it.
We stuff it down and we try to forget about it and we put it back. Yes.
Into the head. Like we might say, oh, I'm the way I am because my mother left me when I was 5. And this is a cognitive level. But on the day that you get in touch with those feelings, then the block opens.
Well, and I want to talk to you about this because I believe you're going to love this. I went through a real heartbreak, and I want to talk about heartbreak because you talk about heartbreak and loss in the book. And what I learned was that there was this program, there was this story that I kept playing in my head. And it wasn't until I changed the story. Because what I think, that's why I want to know what you think about this. Because what I believe is when we tell ourselves the story over and over, we're just reliving it. And that energy is just going and going and going. But when we change the story, we change how it happened. We can change the story, or we can just change the words that we're using. But we have to change the programming. And to me, that helped me a lot. And the other thing I want to say is, a lot of us, and I can speak for myself too, you don't want to feel those feelings because it's so hurtful. But when you let go and release them, it is freeing. It is freeing.
Absolutely freeing. Absolutely freeing. When you're saying change the language or change the belief system?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This always happens to me. Yeah. Yet again, I've been left, or something like this. Yeah. But in and this is what
what did I do wrong, or what did I say, or should I have done this differently, where really it has nothing to do with you at all.
No, that's exactly it. And what has she got or he got that I haven't got?
Right. Exactly.
Sort of thing. And it hasn't anything to do with you. But I think that I teach this a lot because I can relate to it myself, and it's in the book. When we have several experiences of abandonment in our lives, I'm doing it in inverted commas. Right. My first one was my birth, because I was very premature and I was separated out from my mother for 2 months in an incubator. So that's the first one. And then, in the divorce and all of this. But what is the central message? The central message from our soul is not to abandon ourselves. You see, when we learn that, then we don't draw in people who will abandon us.
Right, and we tend to do that because the energy of abandonment, then we look for it, and we look for it. My mom was a narcissist, and she didn't really want to have anything to do with us. So you're looking for love. That's why I said before, people start looking for love because they don't feel fulfilled. They haven't learned to love themselves. This is really what it's about, I think.
It is. Yeah.
People, you have to learn to love yourself. And for a long time, somebody said this to me years ago, and I thought to myself, well, how do you really do that? Because when you've never really learn to love yourself, you have to like sit there and think about this. Well, how do you
Yes,
do
how do I
that?
do it? Yeah. Mhm.
Talk about this because it's true. I mean, this is really it.
It is, and in fact, it is. It's about embodying yourself and giving birth to yourself. How do you do it? Well, for me, it was a gradual process, and I believe that for most people, it is. It's like looking after yourself. What is it? What can I do for myself today? Oh, I know. For me, it's going for a massage or
Yeah.
going for 2 or 3 days to a spa. Like that's really looking after myself. And
Mhm.
and things like that, and also sharpening our boundaries, such as
Yeah.
not giving away our time all the time. No, look, I've got to do self-care today. Um, so it's a gradual process, and it's learning that we are of value for who we are.
That's it. Exactly. I will say that it's the value. We have to value ourselves. And if there are people in our lives that don't value us, we have to move forward and to bring people in who do value us, because when we do value ourselves, then we do have the energy of that. And that does bring in a higher vibration, I believe, of people who will value us. Right.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And a lot of it is about the vibration, you see.
Mm.
And we then meet somebody with a matching vibration. Like I'm in the third age, and the partner I have now is in his early 70s, and it's a totally different kind of relationship than I would have had when I was even in my 50s.
Yeah.
And it's just like we're on the same path. We're kind of like what do you call it? Companions, soul
Isn't that
companions.
great? But that's all it should be. It should
Yeah,
be equal, it should be balanced, and you should be best friends. Yeah.
yeah. And
That's what I'm looking for.
I'm sure you'll get there.
I will. I will. But I think we have to, and you know what, to be straight with you, I am so glad that I had to go through what I had to go through. And I'm saying this because I know everybody has tragedy. People who have death, people who have divorce, people who have, heartbreak or whatever. You have things happen to you, but if you can heal and learn to work on yourself, I think that's the biggest thing. And you talk about this in the book, like working on yourself and what makes you happy. A lot of us are workaholics. And through this, I mean, I've learned my connection with God. I've taught the audience how to connect with God. And I also think that I've learned to not be such a workaholic. Like you were saying, go to the spa, get a massage, balance it a little bit. Sometimes we put all of our energy into one thing and forget about taking care of, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the reason I wrote the reason there isn't really, I love writing, it's my fourth book, is really to say that in this particular, I don't know if you'd agree, but I think you would, in this time of unprecedented, there's a spiritual awakening everywhere, then this is important that we realize that, we can heal ourselves, we can go within, the divine is on our side.
Yes.
And it's not about going out there at all. And the nourishment of the earth, I mean, you talk about the west of Ireland, which was lovely, but I actually spent a little bit of time in Arizona, and I absolutely fell in love with the desert. I love that high desert down there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's got a special energy. It's got a special. Did you go to Sedona when you were here?
I did, but not at the time. Yes, another time, but not at the time that I spent. That it was when I was writing book number 3, I think, and actually I was getting over a heartbreak. But I went to a place called Rex Ranch, which is and I used to walk in the desert at night. I just loved it. I loved that space.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. It really is. Yeah, it's different. I believe, now I lived in New Mexico for many years, but I'll just tell you my feeling on this. I believe in New Mexico, I was really drawn there. I grew up in Ohio and Michigan, but was drawn there by family, but I stayed there. And I believe that the Native Americans truly have kept that land sacred to a certain degree. And that's why the energy, a lot of us are comfortable in that energy there. Now, I also feel that way. I was telling you before the show, I feel that way about the trees. Anywhere that there's a lot of trees, I feel like that energy, and the water too, right? Nature.
Yes, and I feel it a lot in the water, in the great ocean, the big Atlantic. It's
Yeah.
in Jungian psychology. It's a symbol for the divine mother, the great feminine, the mother, the ocean. It's lovely. It's really nice.
You say, I mark this because you say we're living in an age of unprecedented spiritual awakening, which we were just talking about. Emotional healing, therefore, must move beyond psychology if it is to become effective. Combining the depths of psychology with spirituality. And that's what all the scientists I talk to say. They're finally getting there.
Finally getting there. I know. Yeah.
Well, what do you see? I'm curious. I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit before we get out of here today. What's happening in Ireland? What's happening in Spain? You go back and forth. What do you see when, as far as the awakening goes? Do you see a change? Talk to us.
Yes, I don't have I'm new to spending time in Spain, so I can't speak about Spain except that as soon as I got here, which was this time last, well, no, it was a bit sort of October last year. I immediately almost meet yoga teachers, healers, and just form a little group. So there are people there. There's there is a sense of that. In Ireland, we've gone through a huge change in the last 3 years, not for the better. May I add? No, it's a change sort of away from individuality, more towards this whole collective thing, and not I mean, the spirituality that's there is still very much in the earth, and you get pockets of people, but most people, it's very divided. It's a very divided society.
Like it is here.
Well, yes. Yeah. Now that you say it, it probably is the same.
Oh, it is. It is. So divided.
It's so divided, and so there's a few of us, but we're very small in Ireland who are, let's say, on the awakened path, and then the others are all sleeping, and it isn't easy. So I think the US though has more. I mean, take my book, and it's an English publisher. Nearly all my interviews have been with people in the US because there is
because we're waking up. Yeah. But it's like you say, it's true. I guess I see the divide as more of a political divide in the United States right now. Okay. So there's two different things that I see. I see that, yes, people are waking up here in the United States, and there's a lot of people who've written books, a lot of people who are talking about God. It used to not be cool to talk about God. Well, let me tell you, we need to talk about the creator, because that's how we connect, not AI. We connect to God, not to AI. And so I think, and a lot of people are worried about that. But what's happening is there's becoming a great divide between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. There are so many homeless people here in the United States. It's the most awful thing you've ever seen in your life. And the rich get richer because the stock market keeps going and the money keeps coming, and the people can't afford to live in a normal house anymore. And so, and the divide on also politics has really been a big divide here. So it's not been pretty. I've thought about moving to Scotland myself, but I don't know. But I mean, I just,
that's really interesting, because I'm thinking of jumping to Spain instead of staying in Ireland. Isn't it funny?
Well, yeah.
Maybe where our soul feels a little bit freer. One of the things about Ireland is that we're kind of cut off, and so in times like the pandemic and stuff, you're stuck. Whereas at least in Europe, you can go anywhere by boat or train. You can
you can still go from country to country. That's true. That's true.
No, it's really good. But everywhere I see that the people want to, books are one way of doing it, but people want, there's a hunger for healing and for ways of healing. The traditional institutions of the past that we've relied on, or people have relied on, are all crumbling. And so it's a question of falling back. And the spirituality I'm talking about is not a religious spirituality per se. It's just a personal relationship with the divine, and you can have it, in sisterhood or brotherhood, or with like-minded people. And Jung, the Jungian psychology that I am trained in and that I work, he was very open to this transcendent. You asked me about transcendent. That's a word for is something outside of the material.
There you go.
Really. So that, and it's not down to just our biology and our bodies. It's much more than that. It's our souls, our spirit, our psyches, and where we want to go, and all of this.
All of it. Well, and like I said, I'm a positive kind of girl. There's a lot. I do this show for the reason that you're talking about, to wake people up and to teach people about these things. And through all the people I've interviewed, over 300 people in the last few years, and brought information forth. And that's what I think is really important, that we bring information forth. Maybe somebody will connect with how you do things. Maybe they'll connect about, how I interview somebody else. But the bottom line is, people just have to learn to connect. That's it.
To connect, and also to trust that we can heal. We have the power to heal ourselves.
I know.
And in the book, I do put in some tools, like, through regular meditation, and we're not talking about anything rigid. You can do walking meditation, connecting with the earth, affirmations, working with your dreams, just all of that.
Right. All of it helps. Exactly. I will say that. Well, I love the book. How has it been received so far?
Good. Although, as I say, all my interviews, not all, but practically all so far, have been in the US, and I've done various interviews and have been asked to do some work. But it's good. Yeah. Times have changed from when I wrote my other books, where you go to the bookshop and they'd all be there. Now everybody orders online, which is fine, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I would like to suggest to your listeners or your readers to go to my website as well, because there's a lot of
tell us your website.
Resources. Well, it's my name. It's www.Benig Mauger, BENIGMAUGER.com.
Okay.
It goes to soulconnections.com. I think, will you be putting that up? You will.
Yes, I will put that up so that people can see it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was I'm really glad you joined me today. And I will say this, as you're talking about going into the bookstore in the old-fashioned way, the cool thing about Zoom, I will say this, is that I've been able to bring people like you into the audience's household, or to listen on a podcast when they're driving. And I think in a lot of ways it's broadened getting the information out, to a larger audience, maybe.
No, that's absolutely true. If there was any silver lining to the pandemic times, was the mushrooming of Zoom.
I know, right?
Therapy is on Zoom, teaching is on Zoom. And
I know.
And I tell you what, because when I was a young therapist, it was totally frowned on. There was no such thing as you were not to do any therapeutic sessions on the phone or anything like that. But then suddenly, if it's taught us something, is that everything is energy. So the energy is there. You can have perfectly fine sessions on Zoom, even if you're on the other side of the world and the connection is good, you're okay.
Yes.
So it's great to talk to the other side. I know you're morning, and I'm probably going to bed in about an hour. But
right, exactly. Well, and I want to say really quick, what you were speaking about, it was so interesting, because as I started to do Zoom and talk to different healers, I would pick up the energy of the person. And I realized that I could heal through Zoom, that the energy would reach the other person. And that to me was, I mean, we have radio and we have television, but to literally do that and know, do you know what I'm saying?
That is brilliant. That is really lovely.
Yeah, that was like amazing to know that you could do that. Anyway, that's been my big aha moment about Zoom and connecting with people.
No, it's great. And when I started this on the internet, probably about 15 years ago with some American clients, I was amazed at the dream work. I thought this isn't going to work because they're too far away. But it was amazing, the dream, working with it. So everything is energy.
Yeah, it tells us a lot. Well, okay, so the book is The Soul in the Sea. I'm so glad that you joined us today. Thank you for joining us. You guys, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. If you need an angel reading, go to my website, nancyyearout.com. You can book your date and time. I'm also doing some speaking. You can hire me to speak at your event. So you guys, just email me, nancyyearout@gmail.com. I want everybody to have a fabulous week, and God bless.
Hold your head high, the world is coming. Watch the colors lift your soul. Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the